Welcome back to The Rundown. From covert operations against Iran to the Abraham Accords, intelligence and diplomacy have reshaped the Middle East in ways that are still playing out today. Few people know that better than former U.S. Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo. This week, he's being honored at United Hatzalah's annual gala with the Protectors of Israel Award. I spoke with Secretary Pompeo about the award and his insight on what comes next for the region. Here's our conversation. Former U.S. Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Secretary Pompeo, thank you so much for being with us on I-24 News today. Such a privilege to have you with us, and it seems like such an honor for you, it seems, to receive the Protectors of Israel Award from United Hatzalah. What does this recognition mean to you? How do you feel that you've protected Israel over all of these years?
Well, it's great to be back with you all on I-24. Thanks for having me on. You know, it's an enormous honor. I'll be sharing it with a former colleague of mine, Yossi Cohen, former director of Mossad, who's a great personal friend of me and of America. Together, we protected both Israel and the United States of America, and I am intensely proud of that. And so it's incredibly humbling to get an award like this. It wasn't just me. It was my big team at the State Department and at the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency that delivered this security for America and our partner Israel. It'll be a great evening, and I'm so excited to be back with a group of great friends and to celebrate good work that was done in preserving Western civilization and our Judeo-Christian tradition here in America, and the work that the United States and Israel have done for so many years alongside of each other.
Certainly set out to be a fantastic evening there in Miami. I know you're going to be hosting a panel about how spycraft changed the Middle East. Certainly a lot to talk about there alongside former Mossad Director Yossi Cohen. I mean, Israel has carried out years of covert work inside Iran, much of which shaped the outcome of the 12-day war in June. I'm curious, what lessons did those operations teach Washington about even how to operate in the region?
No, there's no doubt what we saw happen in Lebanon with the pagers and beepers, the work that was done in the previous time of the first Trump administration on the archives, have shaped the Middle East, right? It demonstrated once and for all that there was no doubt that Iran was on a pathway to a nuclear weapon, and so gave us in the United States the capacity to withdraw from the nuclear deal. The intelligence collection, the tools, both the operational piece, that is, I'll call it the clandestine/spying piece, and then the hard work, the analytic work to take that data and make sense of it for decision makers is something that I was proud to be a small part of, and I know has continued. There's still a lot more work to do. The Middle East is in the middle of transition, an important transition, not only from an intelligence perspective, but from a political perspective, and one that I think if we can execute on will deliver really good security outcomes and real prosperity for Israel, for the United States, and for the broader Middle East as well.
Secretary Pompeo, shine some light on this if you can, because some of these operations, as you mentioned, the Hezbollah beeper operation in Lebanon, the success between Israel and the United States and Iran, these operations, they don't happen in a matter of weeks, but in the span of years. So during your service as Secretary of State, what groundwork did the U.S. lay to contribute to some of these successes? Realistically, what's the timeline for an operation like this? How long is it in the works?
That's a great question. It's a really good question. Years and years. And many of the projects which you engage in don't work. Yeah. And so it's not a matter of single threading, like we'll do this and we'll start it today and hopefully in 2 years it'll work. It's about at scale operational activity where if some of them end up being false hope or are identified by our adversaries and shut down for security and operational reasons, that some number of them will make it through and actually deliver both the operational tool set and the analytic capability for decision makers to do really good things. And so your point's well taken. You do not put complex operations like the ones that we saw benefit Israel and the United States in Operation Midnight Hammer. You don't put those together in days. You put them together over the course of years, and it is broad and deep. We have other partners that help us as well, not just our own intelligence services here in America and in Israel, but other partners that have helped along the way. It is an all-hands prospect that has now delivered so much good. We've set back the Iranian nuclear program by years, and that was through a lot of hard work and a lot of young Israelis and a lot of young Americans risking their lives to achieve that objective over years and years.
We certainly have set back Iran's nuclear capabilities in years, but even with the war in June? Is it enough? Is there more that the United States needs to do? If the inspections, they're still limited and Iran just refuses to continue to negotiate in good faith, what more should the U.S. be doing?
Yes, I don't think it's enough. The chance of the regime in Iran changing its stripes and becoming a normal nation seems very low to me. As a Christian, I always live in hope, but I'm not optimistic. Reagan talked about trust but verify with these guys. The chance of trusting them is exactly zero. And so the hard work will continue. There'll have to be more done, I'm sure. And eventually, I am optimistic that the Iranian people will turn the regime to a better place, or there'll be a different regime. And it won't be one that has the destruction of the little state in Israel and the great state in the United States as a central foreign policy objective. It will become a normal nation where anti-Semitism doesn't drive everything they do, that deep philosophical theocratic hatred of Israel and the West. And when we do, there'll be a safer place for our children and grandchildren to live. But there is more work to be done. I don't believe for a second Hamas is going to lay its weapons down. I don't think Hezbollah is done. They will be attempting to rearm, and that will require continued effort, continued vigilance, and if they don't change their pattern of behavior, continued strikes like the ones that are even taking place as we sit here, I suppose, but certainly within the last few weeks, to continue to put pressure on those terrorist organizations so that we can keep our own people safe. I don't think the Israelis for a moment are going to ever outsource their security to anyone else. And they're going to do the right thing to keep Israel safe and the proper nature of the Jewish homeland secure for generations to come.
Well, let's talk about outsourcing that security from someone else, because we are expecting announcements from the Trump administration in the coming weeks all about phase 2 of the Gaza ceasefire and the countries that could take part in the international stabilization force inside Gaza. Now, for Israel's part, they made it clear they do not want to see Turkish soldiers involved, but Ankara, it's still pushing to participate. So how do you view the idea of even Turkish boots on the ground inside Gaza?
Well, I saw reporting today, and I don't know that this is true. I saw reporting today that it may be under the command of an American 2-star general. I think that'd be a very good start. But I'll say this is really straightforward for me. UNRWA can be nowhere near this thing. I consider UNRWA a terrorist organization. They worked so closely, cooperated so deeply with Hamas at so many different levels, and then attempted to cover that up and lied about it, that there can't be anyone from UNRWA connected to anything inside of Gaza and hope that Israel and the West will be safe. As for which other nations, the Turks have talked about going there, the Egyptians have potentially offered assistance. The key is, what are they prepared to do? Are they prepared to operate under a Western model where they're actually going to provide security? Or is it going to look more like the blue helmets of the UN, which were operating up in the edges of Israel and Lebanon? They did nothing but create the conditions for more terror. That can't be the case in Gaza. I don't think Israel will let that happen, and it's not America's best interest for that to happen either.
And what about Qatar's role in this ceasefire as well? Because a lot of people here in Israel, they're uneasy with Washington's close relationship with Qatar, considering Qatar has long hosted many of these Hamas leaders in their own country. How worried should Israel be, given the fact that President Trump went even further, signing an executive order vowing to use all measures to defend Qatar if necessary?
Look, Qatar has the capacity to be a force for good. The question is, will they deliver on that? And I think about that for every nation that decides that they want to join, whether it's the International Stabilization Force or become part of the Abraham Accords. It's one thing to write missives, put down letters, hold press conferences. It's another to act in a manner that is consistent with tamping down extremism wherever one finds it. And to host terrorists in your country presents risk to your own country. We saw that with the strike that the Israelis took in Doha. But more than that, it undermines your own national capacity to deliver for your own people. And so we need to be very careful, not just about any one nation, but about every country that says one thing and then acts in a way that's inconsistent with that. We should be looking at actions, not words, deeds, not promises. And when we do that, we can figure out exactly who and how we'll conduct the security operations that will be necessary in Gaza for years and years to come.
We'll speak about judging people on their actions and possibly their current actions and not their past actions. What about Syria? Some critics say President Ahmed al-Sharaa is a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's how they describe him. Is this a man that the United States can trust in the region?
I don't know the answer to that.
No one has
I
a
don't
crystal
think any
ball,
of us.
right?
I don't think any of us know the answer to that. Um, I am hopeful that he will prove to be someone who is determined to put Syria back together, on a set of terms that looks less authoritarian, more democratic, less extremist, more peace-seeking. I know that Israel has had conversations with him. I know the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is working hard to help him and enable him to do precisely that. You all living in Israel know, right? This is a border nation that has caused an amount of havoc by allowing terrorism to move back and forth across its country and present real risk to the to Israel. Al-Shabaab can't do that, so we need to watch the things he does. I was the CIA director when he was a senior official in a terror organization. There was a bounty on his head in the United States. But if he has decided that he wants to come to the right side for basic human rights and for dignity, and he is truly doing that, I would be only the first one to say, God bless you, good luck. Let's all go see how we can't put this together. But we can't rely on something he says. There's too much history there. We need to see what he does.
How is it for you, given all of the knowledge that you learned during your tenure as Secretary of State and CIA Director, and now seeing how the region has completely changed in the past some years? How do you even compartmentalize that and look to the constant future that could be here in the Middle East?
It's interesting. I've been out of government service now for 5 years and a bit. For the first couple of years, it was a Biden administration that didn't provide the support to Israel that was necessary and created risk. And ultimately, we saw what happened on October 7th. That was absolutely heartbreaking for any of us who believed that we had deterrence established against Hamas and against Hezbollah, at least at some level. Now I can see the outlines of continuing to build on what became the Abraham Accords, and I'm very hopeful that that will take place. It's a different world. What Israel did to decimate good parts of the Iranian regime, the hard work that they did to take down Hamas to where it is today and Hezbollah, that's all to the good. Iran is certainly weaker than it was when I left office, but you know this. There remains a risk, and we can never let our guard down.
I'm certainly continuing to monitor all of the many fronts that we face here in Israel. I'm curious, Secretary Pompeo, how involved do you think that the United States president should be in Israeli decisions? You talk about the difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, but when it comes to Israeli decisions, even sensitive internal ones, like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's pardon request, where's the line between supporting an ally and crossing into interference?
I always think the line is really this. Every nation does what's in its best interest. Right? Israel does what it needs to do. We do what we must do as well, and that's how you shape it. I was part of lots of conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. We were always telling them, "Hey, here's what we think." I also saw that when Israel decided it needed something to do or needed help from us, it was unambiguous about either asking for the help, seeking the support, or saying, "Nope, we have to go do this." I think that's the right answer. And as for Israeli internal domestic politics, I think the Israeli people will sort that all out. There were more than a handful of Israeli elections during my time in the first Trump administration, contentious domestic political contests. I think we should leave to the Israeli people to sort through who it is they want them to lead, because in the end, that will deliver for them the best outcomes.
Secretary Pompeo, after everything that you saw while leading the State Department, is there anything that keeps you up at night about the Middle East that the public just isn't paying enough attention to? Is there anything that you would want them to know?
I always think about this. We often in the mainstream global press talk about the Palestinian problem set as being the central theater of risk in the Middle East, and I just don't see that. The central theater of risk sits in Tehran. They continue to host al-Qaeda leadership. They continue to try and figure out how to put their nuclear program together. They continue to build out the militias in Iraq. When we talk about the Middle East, we should know that Iran is the problem. The United States and Israel are doing our best to deliver good outcomes, and the Gulf states in the region want to be part of that. And if we can keep that coalition built, keep it together, keep the focus on pressuring Iran, one day Iran too can become a more normal nation. And that, in the end, that's what will deliver long-term security for the nation of Israel.
Well, that is certainly a good message for us to end on. Secretary Pompeo, it's such an honor to have you with us on I-24 News again. Good luck at that United Hatzalah Miami Gala that is on December 17th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bless you. Have a good day.